Okay. We're going live now. And we're live.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the European Racing Series here at the Hungary ring for round 10 of Tier 1 Season 8. I am going to be your commentator, Kai Bacini, and joining me alongside me in the commentary box as usual is the wonderful Steph. So Steph, how are you today?
I am very, very well, thanks. I'm looking forward to this race a lot.
Yeah, this will be a really interesting race. We saw a lot of action last week in Silverstone when we saw the conditions change from wet. That's when Ace Ritchie really turned on the power, and he managed to win the race last week, which has promoted him up to third in the driver standings. And our driver at the top of the standings, we don't see him here today.
Yeah, unfortunately, Vexit is not here, so it definitely is leaving the championship wide open and is giving the P2 of who is in P2 right now, Get Owned, and P3 of Ritchie. It's giving them a brilliant opportunity to try and close that gap to Vexit in P1.
Yeah, but if you look at the drivers in the session right now, there's actually quite a few drivers that are missing, and one of those drivers is Ritchie himself.
Yeah, very, very, very disappointing. So we are missing that second bright pink Racing Point car today. So yeah, missed opportunity for him, but we only have a grid of 17 drivers today, so we are a couple short, but hopefully we'll still have a fantastic race today.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting for the driver standing as well. Obviously for drivers outside the top three from P4 and P5 positions, but also for Get Owned, he's second in championship, and his two rivals around him haven't turned up for the race today, so it's going to be interesting to see how the points fluctuate in the standings after this.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's not going to come out looking exactly how it is right now, I can tell you that.
Yeah, there will be a massive change in the order, but I guess we'll all have to have a look at the racing on track right now, as we see one of the first drivers that will start hot lap is going to be Fragioko, and I'm having a look at Beaker now as he makes his way into the final section of the track, into Sector 3 now, as he makes his way around the two hairpins, which leads you onto the very long home straight. Very good overtaking zone for many drivers, and I think this we're going to see a lot of low wings on the setups for straight line speed, but that does mean that they are going to have to sacrifice some time in the S's.
Definitely. I mean, this track is a very, very difficult track, a very twisty track. I think it is the second slowest track on the calendar after our trusty street circuit Monaco. So, yeah, very, very slow track. It's going to be a high downforce kind of circuit. So, very interesting to see how the cars will be set up.
Yeah, so setup will be a massive difference. So, obviously, you can use high wings around this track to get good traction and good turning through the S section. As we see on Beaker's side, he invalidates us just going a tiny bit too wide through one of the corners. But obviously if you do have those low wings, which we will see drivers opt for towards the race, which means that you will have so much more power and so much more straight line speed down the straight.
Yeah, and that straight is very, very important. That's the only DRS zone that we have in the on this track right now, so it will definitely be a key overtaking spot come the race, as we do have some very tight, twisty corners. Wow, I can't even get the words out.
So tight, twisty corners and tight and twisty for your tongue. So as we see Dennis go into P1 for now in that Ferrari with 113.57 for a great lap time there, set by the Ferrari, but instantly beaten by the Renault driver of Milan. We've seen the Renault drivers really stepping up their A game recently, and we've seen them challenging the top of the tables, especially in Get Owned, as he is now second in the standings. But Milan, he's there or thereabouts, and I think after this race, he has got a chance of being in that top three.
Yeah, well, we've seen Milan in the last couple of races has been extremely quick with the qualifyings, and last week we saw him on pole, so he's definitely setting the standard today, as we, like we said before, have no Vexit, who we know is also a brilliant qualifier. So I think that Milan is definitely a contender for pole position today. As we see, the Renaults have been extremely quick. Get Owned is yet to set a lap, but we know that the Renaults have been right up there in recent times and have been doing some great stuff together as a team. So definitely definitely the team to watch out for today, I'd say.
Yeah, so Renault, they're definitely going to be the team to look out for today, as we've seen them put in very strong performances recently. But also, the Ferraris aren't looking too bad there in P2 and P4. We have Fragioko and Dennis. Dennis in the front of the Ferrari battle. So, with a lot of the drivers missing, I think it really will mix up the order.
Definitely. I mean, we're seeing Top Jack, who is replacing Vexit today. So whether he will be able to continue Vexit's run of excellent qualifyings is definitely to be seen later on in this session. But we have just less than 12 and a half minutes to go. We only have 7 drivers who have set a time yet, so let's see these drivers coming out. We have a few on outlaps. We have Rainbow on an outlap, Beaker and Danico on an outlap, so let's see what those drivers will be able to do and what times they can set on the board.
Yeah, so we do see quite a few reserves here with us today in the form of Top Jack, and we also see Mert, but you know, with reserves, it's always hit or miss. It's either they have a lot of experience in this field or this is one of their first races. But I know in the form of Top Jack, there is a lot of pace in that car.
Yeah, definitely. And AlphaTauri have been doing brilliant in the standings. I do believe they've lost that top position to Renault because of their recent incredible form. But AlphaTauri are right up there in the championship standings with Lando's Milkman and Vexit have been doing an absolutely brilliant job to bring that team right up to the top. And yeah, they are currently in P2 in the championship, just 18 points behind Milan and Get Owned in that Renault. And so it's definitely all to play for. Let's see if Top Jack can get some good points for the AlphaTauri Honda team today.
Yeah, so as you said, Top Jack, he is really reliant for that AlphaTauri team. So let's see what he's able to do here today. But as we are making our way into the deeper stages of quali, 10 minutes 50 on the clock remaining for these drivers to put in a good lap time. And as we see, only 7 of the drivers have set a lap time so far. So this is really the point in the qualifying session where drivers want to start putting a time on the board.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they are leaving it a little bit late right now, just in case anything is to happen towards the end of the qualifying session. So yeah, interesting for those drivers. Let's have a look at Libero, who is replacing Ben this week, who is in that Mercedes, and a lock-up from him. But he is... Oh, and a spin from him, and I do think that he was on a flying lap then, so that would have definitely ruined it, and we'll see him have to go again. So yeah, we're seeing some of the drivers struggling out there, and right into the pits goes... Libero there, so yeah, we'll have to see what time he can set once he comes back out.
Yep, so as we see Libero making his way back into the pits, we saw that mistake made by him, and that's really unfortunate from the Mercedes drivers. As you said, it did look like he was on a flying lap, so that does mean that he will have to try and go again. 9 minutes left on the clock. As we see the drivers getting closer at the top of the field, it looks like that's an improved lap time there from Dennis. As he's on a hot lap right now, let's have a look at what he's able to do as he makes his way through the left, then the right in 6th gear, carrying as much speed as possible. Purple sector 2 there from the Ferrari as he makes his way into the final section of the track. The 2 very long hairpins. It's all about carrying as much minimum speed as possible. Oh, in this round for Dennis. That's going to be round for Dennis, and that will be his lap over. It was looking promising up until then. Purple sector 2, and Dennis, you'll have to abort that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, we was just pushing too hard, and while we were on board with Dennis, I was riding on board with Top Jack, who has only set a lap that is good enough for 9th position at the minute, and Copy, having just set the first lap for the McLarens today, has just pushed Top Jack down into 10th by going 9th. So yeah, very, very interesting. Not where the AlphaTauris will want to be in 10th and 11th right now. They'll definitely be coming in and looking to set another time on the board. But yeah, I mean, at least they have a time on the board, so that's a positive.
Yeah, so having a time on the board is definitely a positive in qualifying, as it will put you up the grid. So we are starting to see more and more drivers get their lap times on the board. So there is only now 5 drivers remaining that haven't set a lap time, and I'm sure those 5 drivers will be getting onto it very soon and trying to get the fastest lap time possible. And actually one of those drivers who is on a lap right now. He's going to cross the line. The Williams driver, he goes up at P4. The reserve dropping in for the Williams team at 1:13.452, only 3 temps off pole.
Yeah, and Milan has been knocked off pole as well, as Tierman has gone about 1/10 faster. So brilliant job from the only racing point on the grid today. Whether he can hold that position is another question. We still have 7.5 minutes left of qualifying. But I am with Rainbow right now, who is on his out lap, and as we are seeing him come through Sector 2, let's have a wait, and then we'll have a see what Rainbow will be able to do for that first flying lap of his.
Yeah, so let's see what Rainbow is able to do here for the Red Bull team. He is on an out lap now as he makes his way into the final section of the track. This really is a chance for him to make his way up the standings, as I'm sure he's very close to the top in that Red Bull team. And with the drivers ahead of him, a few of the drivers ahead of him not even making the race here today. We do have 17 instead of 20 drivers. Rainbow, this is a really good opportunity. He's going to have to take it by the horns and go at it at full speed. How about you want to show us this lap, Steph?
Yeah, so he's going all the way into... Oh, and that's a lock-up into turn 1, which is not the best time... Not the best way to start your lap, but as he goes downhill, it's looking not too bad. The long left-hand corner of turn 2 and turn 3, and we're coming to the end of sector 1 there as he comes up the hill to the quick right-hander, the quick left-hander, should I say, of turn 4. And all the way around the outside. Got to be very, very careful with turn 5 with that sausage curb, so it is not very forgiving. And I'm not seeing him going super fast. Do we think he's backed out of this lap? It's invalidated, I think.
Yeah, it is an invalidated lap there from Rainbow, so that's really unfortunate for him. But he'll have to compose himself and try to go again.
Yeah, not ideal with just less than 6 minutes to go for qualifying. Does not have a time on the board right now. So yeah, he's going to have to pull it out of the bag at the very, very end, and it's going to be under a little bit of pressure to set a decent lap time as we see a couple more lockups as he makes his way back round. But what we are seeing is that Rainbow is on medium tyres, as we see. And we also have Luca, who is his teammate, who has set his time on mediums, but is currently about to come out on soft. So maybe that time on mediums, maybe it was the quickest they could possibly go, and so softs is definitely the way, as we do see Get Owned has the fastest lap so far and is on a provisional pole position with a 1:13.114, so just less than 1/10 quicker than Tierman.
Yeah, so very close between the drivers, 800ths actually separating the Racing Point and the Renault at the top of the field. But we were talking about Renault being a very strong team, and they are showing that right now. With 4 minutes left of the qualifying session, it is Renault P1 and P3.
Yeah, an absolutely fabulous place for them to be starting, as we're seeing Milan is actually coming out of the pits, and this is likely going to be for his final flying run. So yeah, as he just gets out of the way of a Haas, who is currently on a flying lap. And we haven't actually talked too much about the Haas's, but Yonti is someone that I want to bring up, because Yonti is currently P5 in the championship, but seems to have kind of snuck up out of nowhere. We always see him making up places during the race, but never qualifying exceptionally well. Currently in 8th position, so we'll see what he will be able to do in the race, because he does have incredible race pace.
Yeah, so it is great race pace from him here, but I mean, qualifying is something, but a 30-lap race is completely different. Obviously, we are running this 50% race format here in the European Racing Series, so it's all good if you can do one fast lap, but it's even better if you can do 20 or 30 consistent fast laps.
Yeah, and I think something that's very characteristic of Hungary is that you've got to get into a really good rhythm over the course of the race. Once you get into a good rhythm, going through those 14 corners, that's when you're at your best and at your peak. So that's what the drivers will be looking to do. Qualifying is extremely important. We know that in F1, just less than 50% of all of the races at the Hungarian GP have been won from pole position. So it is important, but I have no doubt that we will still see some very spicy overtakes today, and it will not be easy for whoever the pole sitter is.
Yeah, as we know, there's a very long run down to that first corner from the start-finish line, and actually the drivers starting at the back of the grid are a little bit curved onto the straight, as it's not far from the start-finish line to the final corner. So if you are starting on pole, you've got to have a mega motor or low front wings to try and not get slipstream caught down that straight.
Yeah, exactly. So it could be very, very dangerous for whoever is on pole position. But someone who doesn't look like they're going to be on pole position is Danico, who is still currently in the garage and does not have a lap time set. So he's currently P17. Both of the Mercedes are out on track right now on outlaps, and so is Rainbow. So those are the 4 drivers that currently do not have a time on the board. Let's see what the those 3 will have to say about it.
Yeah, so they will have a massive say about it, but with 2 minutes left on the clock, we see a lot of outlaps on that field, and one of those outlaps is Tiemann, as he's 800ths off the pole sitter right now. Milan retires from the session, that is in the pit lane, so I'm guessing that 113.284, Milan, he thinks that's the best he could do.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing. I think we could have seen Milan go down a little bit further, as we've seen get owned a 10th quicker. So Milan could definitely have done a little bit more, even if he didn't realise. But positive for get owned. At least he won't have his teammate to compete with pole position.
Yeah, so it looks like get owned is on his own for now. No pun intended there. But the Renault driver is out of qualifying right now. The P3 sitter of Milan will have to sit in his seat and hold on for dear life, hoping that no one else around him improves. This is really going to be stressful for him now.
Yeah, and I'm just riding on board with Rainbow now, who is on his final flying lap, and it is not going well. We have seen Rainbow lock up in turns 1 and 2, as he is now in turn 5. So we've had some lock ups, so it might not be the quickest, and I'm seeing him backing out of that final lap. So just going through the chicane of turn 6 and 7, Rainbow has backed out, so he will not put a time on the board unless he will be able to cross the line again and go for another flying lap. So we'll see if he'll be able to do that. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. But we are seeing people retiring from the session left, right and centre. So Top Jack has retired. Clearly P11 is the best that he thought he could do as well. Let's see if his race pace will be able to show. Copy is currently on another flying lap. But yeah, we're seeing some brilliant laps from everyone right now, who is rushing in to get their final qualification before the flag waves for the end of the qualifying session.
Yeah, so 9 seconds remaining. We're going to count it down with 5 seconds now. The checkered fly will fly next time round. As you see, time remaining on the clock is 2 minutes 56. As we have these drivers squabbling to get the best times possible, and Tiemann's invalidated.
Oh, that's not what you want for the guy that's in P2 right now. I mean, P2 is not bad at all, but invalidating your final lap, not what you need. So very, very disappointing for him. Rainbow is on a second flying lap in one go. He did make it over the line just in time, and we're seeing a much stronger lap from him. No lookups thus far, and he's riding all of the curbs of the chicane of turn 6 and 7, and it's looking like a really, really quick lap, as we see one of the Mercedes is getting out of the way. He's definitely riding all of the curbs, but not testing track limits too much, and he is not invalidated yet. So we are seeing some positive signs from Rainbow. He's definitely going to get a time on the board. Oh, I jinxed it, as we see a massive lockup as he went into turn 13 then. We'll have to see how quick this time actually has been for him, but I don't think that that's definitely the best that he could do, and it's only good enough for P4. But that was still very positive, considering he did not have a time on the board before that final lap. Even with that lockup, he was still able to put it on the second row of the grid. So definitely positive for Rainbow, and what will he be able to do in the race from fourth?
Yeah, so Rainbow, he will be on fourth, second row of the grid on the outside of the track. But Milan, he was in P3 going into the final couple of minutes of qualifying, and now he's starting P7. That just shows how close the grid here is at the Hungary ring.
Yeah, and Danico, who absolutely zoomed up into P2 as well. So we have seen some absolute stormers for those flying laps, and very, very different to what it looked like before everyone set out on their final runs. So very, very interesting. It's a very, very mixed up grid, not what I expected, and there was not a lot of time between everyone. So we've got Get Owned in P1, we've got Danico P2, and Tiamat P3. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this race now, and who's going to end up on top.
Yeah, this will be a very close race, and obviously, as Silverstone shown last week, we have no clue what the Rev is going to do in the race, and that could completely mix up the order as well.
Oh yeah, it was a good race with those changeable conditions. So Hungary, not known for rain, but we'll see.
Yeah, so Hungary, it's all, as you said, it's not known for rain, but you know, anything can happen.
True.
In the European Racing Series, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen today.
Yeah, beautiful sunny skies we've got. But yeah, I'm sure that the rain will not, well, the lack thereof rain will not take away from the incredible racing that I'm sure we are going to see in this session.
Yeah, so this is going to be really interesting to watch as we see 15 seconds left on the session timer. The drivers preparing themselves, getting their strategy prepared, and overall trying to get the best result possible for them.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't predict to you who's going to win this race. I mean, we know that Milan and Get Owned, sorry, the other Renault, are very, very quick in the race and definitely help each other, as we see the drivers setting off on their formation lap, the first of this 35 lap race. And one of the Renaults is on the grass already, so not the best start. But yeah, I think it's anyone's game, really. And I couldn't predict to you what the order's going to look like come the end of the race.
Yeah, so as you said, it's unpredictable, this track, and we see many drivers invalidating their lap times. So I mean, is penalties going to be a massive factor around here? I think it will be. So the drivers that are going to be able to keep it clean will massively benefit at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last week as well that a penalty did affect the final winner. So that was very, very disappointing for Luca, I believe it was, who ended up with a massive penalty at the end of the race. So yeah, track limits is going to be a massive factor of this race. I mean, there is a lot of grass. It's very, very easy to go wide on several corners, including turns 10. I think is really easy to go wide on. So yeah, there's definitely some opportunities for the drivers to invalidate several laps. Could we see some quite a few penalties? I'm definitely predicting, as these drivers don't always keep it clean.
Yeah, so I mean, that's always a factor that needs to be included into the race, but Get Owned, we've seen him round the final corner, and he's going to get to the grid way before anyone else, which does mean that he's going to have much colder tyres.
Yeah, not the best lining up strategy, but as we're seeing everyone making their way onto the grid now, he won't have to wait too much longer, shall we say, as Hude in 17th position is just coming around the final corner of turn 14.
Yeah, so as we have the final drivers line themselves up on the starting grid now, this is going to be a really interesting race. As we have the lights come on now, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 red lights. And it's going to be lights out, and away we go here at the Hungary ring. It's going to be a great jump off the line from pretty much everyone on the grid. As the connection starts to sort themselves out, we see drivers ghosting left, right, and centre. But it looks like it's going to be a great stop from Get Owned, and there's a little bit of contact between him and the McLaren. And as the McLaren and the Red Bull off, is that Rainbow? No, it's not. But was that Luca? Luca caught up in a collision with one of the McLaren drivers, which means he's off. Oh, and that's another Ferrari round. That's big damage there for Dennis. This is complete chaos at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Danico was the McLaren driver that we actually saw in a little bit of contact, having a little spin. So very, very disappointing. Dropped right down the order, as we are seeing it sort itself out right now. But yeah, in P1 we have Get Owned, P2 Tioman, and in P3 is the Ferrari of Fragioko right now. So Well, that's different to the start, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an amazing start there from Fragioko. And our top 3 contender of the championship, Rainbow, he's down in second last.
Yeah, not ideal for Rainbow. Really disappointing after that amazing qualifying lap that he pulled out to end up in P4. So, not what you want and not the ideal start to this race. And I'm sure he's going to be absolutely gutted but focused on clawing his way back through the pack.
Yeah, so it does look like Rainbow's going to be on a mission on his way back. As the game says DRS enabled and we're on lap 3, I do not think that, but you can see so many drivers diving into the pit lane because of damages or issues from the first lap.
Yeah, but someone who is not diving into the pits is our leader of Get Owned, who has managed to extend that lead. We can see that there's already a massive gap between him and Tierman in P2. So Get Owned looks very, very comfortable out there right now and is just extending that gap.
Yeah, so Get Owned, an amazing start there from the Renault driver, and you can see pretty much no one for him to worry about. Tierman in the racing point, just dropping back inch by inch.
Yeah, it's going to be disappointing. He's going to want to hold on to Get Owned, otherwise it's not going to be too much of a difficult race. Oh, as we see Get Owned having a massive lockup just there. So maybe Tierman, if he can put a little bit more pressure on Get Owned ahead of him, he'll be able to force him into his mistake, and then we can potentially see a fight for the lead of the race, as we see Get Owned is coming for lap 3 of the race. So now he's crossed the line, lap 3 has begun, and I think DRS is definitely enabled now this lap.
Yeah, DRS enabled, but it doesn't look like the racing point of Tierman's going to be picking it up anytime soon. There's nearly already a 2-second gap between the leading 2 drivers.
Yeah, not ideal for Tierman. He's not within DRS range, which is very, very uncharacteristic of only 3 laps into the race. He's nearly 2 seconds behind, so it's clear that Get Owned has a lot of pace and Tierman is not picking up on that. But I just want to pick up on Luca right now, who is in the Red Bull right now and is on medium tyres. So, oh, and Kai has left the session, so I'm feeling like he's going to have a few issues right now. So I will walk you through what I'm saying about Luca, who is currently on the medium tyres, and I do not know what that strategy will be. So I think we are probably going to be in for a one-stop strategy, softs to hards. Maybe Luca's going to try and extend that first stint and do a medium to hards, potentially. I don't see a medium to soft strategy working out for him. So, yeah, not ideal. But Hazard, who is on hard laps, Hughed on hard laps, and the 2 drivers at the back, we've got Libero and Lando's Milkman, who are both on hards as well. So, oh, and Copy as well. So, several drivers on the hards right now, a couple who have already pitted. Will be very, very interesting to see what that optimum strategy is. But just talking about strategies, we are seeing Tierman slip even further behind Get Owned, who is in the lead right now, taking a commanding lead. And it doesn't look like he's out of control in any way, as we are only on lap 4 of this race, and as we are seeing the cars come around turn 5 to the quick chicane of turns 6 and 7. So very, very interesting. Although we did have a chaotic first lap, we are not seeing so much chaos now, as we're seeing Tierman has extended, or has fallen back from Get Owned, should I say, for over 2 seconds now. But he's going to want to watch about Fragioko behind him, because Fragioko has had an incredible start and absolutely stormed right up the order, and he is now within DRS range of Tierman, who will see that red Ferrari in his mirrors, and that's not what you're going to want to see, because he's going to have to defend fairly hard from that Ferrari now. I wonder if Kai has rejoined us. Kai?
Yeah, just waiting on an invite back to the lobby, and then I'll be with you shortly.
No worries. So you guys are stuck with me a little bit longer. Let's see what's going on. We've got Milan, who managed to drop down the order after a little bit of chaos, who is currently in P7, just made a move on the Williams reserve driver of Mert. So yeah, it's going to be a recovery drive from Milan, but it looks like he is making a good start to it, and he is 1.6 seconds behind Luca, who is in P6. Luca on the medium tyres, so it could be that Milan has a little bit more pace on the softs and is able to overtake him, but the longevity of the mediums might mean that Luca can extend and do a bit of an overcut strategy today. So we'll have to see how that plays out in Luca's favour. If that plays out in Luca's favour, because it is a very, very interesting one to, very interesting strategy to have gone on. So let's have a look at the Hasses in P4 and P5. So we have Beaker, who has rejoined us again for this race, who is in P4, and Yonti, who's in P5. Now, they are very, very close together in the slipstream of one another in DRS range, so it's whether Yonti will be able to close in on Beaker, whether they're going to stay like that. Could we see maybe some team orders falling into place, as Yonti is much higher in the standings than Beaker is, so it would be very, very important for Yonti to continue scoring those points, but as we see, Yonti is right on the back of Beaker, so it might not even become a question of team orders whatsoever, and we might just see Beaker falling victim to Yonti's incredible race pace, which Kai and I picked up on a little bit during qualifying earlier today. As we were just looking at the Hasses there, we have seen that Dennis has already picked up a penalty, and as we predicted, penalties are going to be pretty frequent in this race. It is a 3-second penalty, and I am going to go ahead and assume that is as a result of track limits infringements. So disappointing for Dennis, but he's all the way down in P12 anyway, so let's see if he can claw it back, get some points on the board, and hopefully we'll be able to negate that penalty if possible. Let's have a further look down the order, as we are seeing the guys kind of dropping back from each other. Let's look at this leading battle, actually, because while we have been looking at the midfield and the intricate battles that are going on there, we have missed the fact that Tiemann has dropped 3 seconds behind Get Owned. So Get Owned is really extending that victory, that gap between him in P1 and Tiemann in P2. And I'm seeing an issue because Yonti has dropped from P5 and is all the way back down into P11. So Yonti has pitted now for hard tyres. I wonder if that means the pit window is open or if there was some sort of issue with Yonti. Hopefully there wasn't. Hopefully it was all good. But yeah, it dropped down into P11 now. Let's see what he is capable of on those new hard tyres and whether the longevity will be able to take him all the way to lap 35 of this race. As Kai mentioned, we are doing half distance. So the normal 70 lap race around the Hungaroring, around this 4.3 kilometre circuit. That normal lap time, shall we say, has been halved to 35 laps, as we see another penalty being picked up by Danico. So even though Danico had that exceptional qualifying, he has now fallen all the way down the order to P12, as we see that Top Jack, Vexit's replacement this weekend, has also a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. So we are seeing these penalties start to rack up now, which is very, very disappointing for, well, will be very disappointing for those drivers, and will definitely affect the order in which they are finishing. So yeah, going to be disappointing for those, not what they won, as we are seeing Beaker, I think, dropping into the pits as well. So Yonti pitted before that, now we're seeing Beaker pit, and Beaker has now come out behind Yonti. So Yonti doing that undercut from his teammate has now got him around 2 seconds ahead of him. So the Haas is now in P9 and P10. And we did just see Top Jack retiring from that session, which is extremely disappointing because I was really looking forward to seeing the kind of pace that Top Jack was going to carry. And unfortunately, as I was talking about Yonti and his incredible pace, he has just been slapped with a 3-second time penalty as well. So that is not good. Sector 1, we have a yellow flag. I wonder what's going on there. Let's have an investigate. I think that we and I am on board with Get Owned right now, who has dived into the pit lanes, and it could be time to go onto those hard tyres until the end of the race. And it looks, yeah, we're seeing, Oh, had a bit of a lag on the game there, but we are seeing that Get Owned has put new tyres on. Those Renault mechanics have managed to put the white striped hard tyres on for Get Owned, and he's only dropped down to P5, so has not actually lost that much time from that pit lane and not lost too many positions. But in the lead of the race right now is Luca, who is on those medium tyres and should be able to go a couple of laps longer. I don't know how long he'll be able to extend this stint for, but he seems to be doing a decent job on those tyres right now. I believe that that Jack had the fastest lap, that Top Jack had the fastest lap before retiring from that session. So Top Jack picked up a couple of penalties, one of them speeding in the pit lane, and ended up retiring from the session. So very, very disappointing for Top Jack, very disappointing for AlphaTauri as a whole, as we can see that Lando's Milkman is running down in 16th. So not ideally where you would want to be, and clearly he is also not having the best race, but we'll keep an eye on Lando's Milkman for you, and hopefully he'll be able to extend that gap a little bit, or extend that gap, or close up that gap, should I say, as he tries to make his way back to the pack. P15 is Dennis right now, and he's looking about 6 seconds away. So Lando's Milkman not too far away from everyone, but yeah, in a bit of his own world right now, racing no one but himself. So interesting one for Lando's Milkman. We'll see if he can bring home some points for AlphaTauri today, as Top Jack will not be able to. But coming back up to the front of the grid, Get Owned, who is likely net P1, is currently in P5. So very, very interesting to see if he can close that gap to Copy in P4, who is also on the hard tyre, should I say, which has done 9 laps. So those tyres are a little bit older than Get Owned's are right now, but our leader of Luca is currently looking very, very comfortable on those medium tyres. 7.5 seconds ahead of P2, which is huge. So Luca is doing a fantastic job right now after... No, it was not Luca who was involved in that contact earlier on in the race. So Luca is having a fairly clean race so far, as we did see him plagued by a penalty last time. No penalty on his record just yet, but he is looking extremely comfortable out on those medium tyres. And maybe that was the right qualifying decision, because everyone is behind him. If he were to pit now, I assume he would come out around about P5, so behind Get Owned, but in front of Tierman, who is definitely falling very, very far behind Get Owned at the minute. And that was the fight for P1 in the race, but Tierman is over 4 seconds behind Get Owned now. So even though Get Owned is currently in P5, he's definitely still in contention to take back the lead of the race. So we'll have a look to see if Tierman will be able to actually compete with Get Owned and be able to close that gap up. It's not looking very likely yet, and Tierman just does not seem to have the pace to keep up with that fast Renault today. So disappointing for that lonesome racing point, but he does have Fragioco on his tail. So even though the front of the grid is a little bit spread out and we've got Luca kind of running away in front, we do have a very, very close-knit fight between Tierman, Fragioco, Yonti, who also picked up a penalty, and so has his teammate Beaker. So both of the Hatters running quite well right now. Yonti is still in the lead after they did a little switcheroo during the pit stops, but Yonti has a big lockup now going into turn 1, so not ideal for those tyres and making them last towards the end of the race. And I think that was another lockup from Yonti as we went into turn 2, the long left-hander. So not ideal, and those tyres will definitely not be thanking him. And as we can see, all of those drivers coming up to turn 4 just then were riding all of the curbs fully, so they're definitely maximizing the track limits that they have right now, and using them all to their advantage without actually having and oh my gosh, we have had an incident from Milan, who has dropped down dropped down the order again, and we had a yellow flag. Oh, and Milan is in the wall, so that is not good from him, and we're seeing that the left front portion of his front wing is gone. So will he be retiring from this session? It does not look good from him right now. I wonder, he's not too far away from making it to the pits, as he is about to hit sector 3. So hopefully he'll be able to get into the pits and change that front wing, as that is a hefty amount of damage, and he's gonna... Oh, and we're seeing some more yellow flags. So yeah, as we're on board with Milan right now, as he locks up, just coming around turn 13 there, and yeah, dive straight into the pits for a brand new front wing and potentially a brand new set of tires. We'll have to have a look. And unfortunately we have seen Milan retire from the session, so that is a massive disappointment for the man who was on pole last week at Silverstone. Absolutely tragic for him, really upsetting, and Milan has left the session. So it is all on Get Own's shoulders right now, who is currently in P5 and still pulling away from Tierman, who is in P6. It's whether Get Owned will be able to actually challenge the guys ahead of them when they will have to pit. I mean, Luca is doing absolutely incredibly well to make those medium tires last, but it is looking like they're dropping off now, because he's locking up a couple of locking up those front tires as he was going around turns 1 and turns 2. So yeah, those tires are not going to be thanking him, but he is managing to extend this stint, and it's a very interesting choice of strategy. We know that Get Owned is usually the king of tire management on this grid and in terms of these drivers, because he has managed to make some crazy strategies work over the past couple of races, namely France, I believe, when he did the complete opposite and managed to extend his tire stint very long. As we just see, race control has said that Danico has another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, so I think that is now up to 6 seconds, so that is not going to be ideal. And yeah, that's true, we have 4 drivers right now with penalties that are 3 seconds. We have Yonti, we have Beaker, we have Mert, and we have Dennis, and we have Danico on that 6-second penalty right now. So as we are on lap 15 of this race, I'm not seeing a massive amount of... Oh, and we're seeing Luca diving into the pits right now. So those medium tyres really had enough. And let's see, I think he has gone onto those hard tyres. Ooh, that has worked out an absolute treat, because he has come out ahead of Tierman Server. Luca is now net P2 in this race. So that strategy that he was on, those medium tyres, actually worked really well, because he is now ahead of Tierman, and hopefully will have the pace to be able to close in on Get Owned and see if we can have a fight for the net victory of this race. So that is a positive for Luca, and he managed to do a great job with those medium tyres and extend that stint. So it hopefully will work out for him. He does have fresher tyres now, so his tyres are 5-6 laps younger than those around him, so he will have to get them that use out of them before they start before the positives of new tyres are negated. But it's looking like he's got a lot of pace. He's already pulling away from Tierman behind, so it's about just over 1 second the difference between them. So it is working out for Luca right now. Not so much for Tierman, as we have seen him dropping back, and he just doesn't seem to be able to compete with the guys ahead of him right now, and is just almost just spending the entire race defending from Fragioko behind him, who has been within DRS range for quite a while. So it is interesting to see if Fragioko will actually be able to attack, as we do see him very close. We see a little lockup now going into turn 2. So we are seeing quite a few lockups. This track is very trying on the tyres, because there's a lot of lateral energy through the amount of corners that we have. It's a 14 corner track, and we actually only have that one long straight. So Hungary is not a high-powered track, as I said before in qualifying. We are on the second slowest circuit on the calendar besides Monaco. So Hungary is not massive power Hungary, shall I say. It is much slower. It is much... there is much more pressure on the tyres due to the lateral energies that come from having so many corners. So we are seeing a lot of lockups as a result of that, and there is a lot of pressure on the front tyres, especially in turns such as turn 11, which we just went through and saw a little lockup from the cars going in there. As I was just on board with the battle between Luca Tierman and Fragioko in P5, P6, P7, I have just missed Get Owned making an overtake on Hazard, and Danico has had an issue. We have a yellow flag, so that is going to be the end of Danico's race, and he is now retiring from the session. So that is a massive disappointment from Danico. He had an absolutely incredible qualifying. I think that is his best qualifying of the season so far. Qualified P2, and is now having to retire from the race. So it's not ideal for Danico, and it could have been a really special opportunity for him to pick up some points, as we see Rainbow being slapped with a 3-second time penalty as well. Wow, they're dishing out the penalties left, right and centre now. So yes, before we got distracted by Danico's retirement, I was talking about how Get Owned had made a move on Hazard for P2 and must have managed to get past Copy as well in P4. So Hazard is carving his way through the pack, even though he is net P2, net P1 should I say, once the dust settles and once the guys in front of him pit. And he is back in P1, as we see Hude has gone into the pits now. And he's gone onto medium tyres. So those tyres will definitely get him to the end of the race. Not, clearly we're too far from the end of the race to have softs, to jump onto softs. So Hude is on the mediums, and they should be pretty good for him. He has come out still in the points. Hude is in P10 now. So that long first stint with the hard tyres has done him pretty well, and if he can maintain this and use the pace advantage of a fresher and softer set of tyres, then hopefully Hude will be able to carve his way back through the pack, especially considering those the three drivers in front of him in 7th, 8th and 9th, they are all slapped with penalties. So this is a brilliant opportunity for the Alfa Romeo of Hude to really start attacking, as we see him right on the back of Rainbow within DRS range, and is definitely going to be looking to strike very, very soon. We see that there is not a massive gap between them, so I think the gap is it's 0.2 seconds. As we see a little bit of lockup from that front right tyre of Hude. And we see a lockup from Rainbow, so that is not ideal, and this is giving Hude all of the opportunities, and hopefully we're going to see an overtake coming as we come around the final corner of turn 14 to the main straight, and it looks like Hude is going to be able to get it done, and he does pretty easily. But Rainbow was not giving up too easily, as Hude definitely makes it stick as we go into the sharp corner of turn 1. So Hude, that first stint with those hard tyres definitely paid off, and he had the pace to go and overtake Rainbow ahead. So Hude now P9, and will be setting his sights on the two Haas in front of him. So definitely on a bit of a charge there. If we come back up to the front of the grid and have a little look at what is going on with... Excuse me, my bad. Hay fever, I guess. Such a sunny day and all the grass around Hungary. So, we are on board with Get Owned right now, who is taking a commanding lead again. I feel like that is a word that I keep repeating, but it is only fitting for Get Owned right now, who has completely dominated this race. As we see a move from Luca. Now we see Copy diving into the pit. So Copy has been on that extended hard stint and is going on to the mediums now. So Copy has seen how well that medium tyre has worked out for Hude, as Hude now sets the fastest lap, a 1:16. So that was absolutely fabulous from Hude, and he is definitely showing his pace right now. copy down into P11, but with those new fresh tyres on, will he be able to do exactly what Hugh has done and kind of carve his way through the pack with that new fresh rubber? I think he'll be able to do so, as Hugh looks like he has the most pace around out of everyone around the track right now. So incredible job from Hugh. We are seeing him close that gap to the Haas as well. That was a 7-second gap, I think, and it is it's really coming down now. So that's absolutely fantastic for Hugh. I'm on board with Hazard right now, who is about to be overtaken by Luca around the and he looks to go around the outside of turn 13, but it just doesn't quite work out as Hazard jumps into the pit. So Hazard has realised that those tyres are not going any further. Those hards have to come off. We're seeing the Mercedes guys in the garage, and it looks like he's going to go on to the yellows of mediums as well. So nobody thinks that the softs can take us to the end of the race, and it is very, very clear that the medium tyres could be the optimal tyre for the end of this race. It would be interesting to see if we had a safety car or something, and we might see some cars diving into the pits for some softs at the end of the race, but we still have 14 laps to go, and the hards are looking not too bad. I mean, Get Owned is doing an absolutely fantastic job, but he does not have Tierman behind him now. He has Luca, and Luca is carrying a lot more pace than Tierman was carrying before. So Luca currently 4.5 seconds behind Get Owned, so will be very, very interesting to see how quickly, if he will be able to carve that gap before the end of the race anyway. So yeah, very, very interesting. We're seeing a bit of a similar gap, should I say, between Luca and Tierman behind him, about 4.7, 4.8 second gap. So Tierman, it's really disappointing that he's just not on the pace right now. But let's have a look at Fragioco, because Fragioco is behind him within DRS range right now, is being challenged by the Haas of Yonti behind. But Fragioco has been behind Tierman's server for a large portion of this race and just hasn't been able to get past. So it could be, oh, and we're going to see an amazing move from Jonty, but he doesn't quite let it stick. But he is all over the back of Fragioco right now, and that was a move that he tried to do on the way into turn 2 and all the way around the outside of turn 2, but didn't quite manage to make that stick. So very, very disappointing. But I think Fragioco will not be happy to see the Haas of Yonti right behind him in his mirrors, because Yonti is going to have DRS and is going to be able to attack down the straight if he can't get it done in one of the corners before. So I think Fragioco needs to be very, very careful. Keep an eye on his mirrors behind him, as that Haas is all over the back of him. So Fragioco has likely missed his opportunity to be attacking the bright pink racing point of Tierman in front, as we are seeing a yellow flag in sector 2. And I believe that is Dennis, who would have had a little bit of a spin there, so as he's going through the chicane of turn 6 and 7. So he seems to have got back on. It doesn't seem to be any damage, so, oh, but he does go massively wide in sector 2. So that is not ideal for him. Seems to have got everything back under control. Yes, it's looking all right for Dennis. It's not looking like there's any damage. I don't think he's going to... Oh, there is a little bit of a lockup, but I don't think this warrants going into the pits, does it? No, he's going to continue, so it must all be fine. There's no physical damage, no damage that I can see of. So hopefully Dennis, should I say, will be fine to continue. As we jump back up to this battle between Fragioco and Yonti. So Yonti hasn't been able to make that move stick and is dropping a little bit further back out of DRS range, but this is probably due to the tight, the corners that we are going through and him following in the dirty air of Fragioco. Oh, and it's a big lockup from Yonti, which is not what you want when you're following in the warm air of that bright red Ferrari right now. So he is still putting pressure on Fragioco, but I'm not sure he's going to be close enough. As on the home straight, he'll definitely be able to close up that gap, but will it be enough to actually make the overtake stick? I'm not quite sure on this lap. but Yonti is closing in again. As we see, Hude has just made an overtake on Yonti's teammate of Beaker and a lockup. So I think turn 1 is a hot spot for lockups right now, as we are seeing them left, right, and centre. But that overtake from Hude has been was great, and he is clearly carving through the pack. He's now up to P6 on those medium tyres. So 4 seconds behind Yonti now. So Beaker had actually dropped quite far behind his teammate, even though they were running quite close together at the beginning of the race, or after the pit stop, shall we say. So Hude is clearly carrying a lot of pace right now on those medium tyres, and they are working for him. He's already shaved 3/10 off of the gap between him and Yonti, so there is clearly that is clearly a man on a mission, and he is going to be making his way up to the white and red and black Haas car, which is still stuck behind Fragioko. So we're seeing that Yonti might be getting a little frustrated about being stuck behind Fragioko for so long, but Fragioko is honestly doing a brilliant job to defend. He is managing to get a little bit of the slipstream. Oh, he's just got out of the slipstream, but he is he's getting a little bit of slipstream from the pink Racing Point of Tiemann ahead, so that is probably what is keeping him just out of reach of Yonti right now, even though Yonti is all right behind him as they go into the long left-hander of turn 2, but Yonti is not able to make that move. As we see, Libero has left the session, but is still here, so I don't think that this is a retirement, just ghosting out right now. So that is positive. But while we were looking at that fight between Fragioko and Yonti, we were seeing that Beaker has picked up a penalty as well. So that is very, very disappointing for the Haas driver, who was running quite close to his teammate, but has now fallen behind. And oh no, Yonti is going to be absolutely gutted to hear that he has a penalty. So that is not what Yonti wants at all. After fighting so hard right at the front of the grid in P5 currently, he's going to want to overtake Fragioko as soon as possible now, because he will want to negate the effect of that penalty, which is going to currently displace him nowhere. He will remain in P5, but Hude is definitely catching up to Yonti, so it could end up dropping him even further if he's not able to get past Fragioko anytime soon. So he is within DRS range. We are seeing that big blue that big green tick, should I say, of DRS, and it's a very interesting dance that's going on between the Works Ferrari and that Ferrari powered Haas, because they are doing a little bit of a dance right now. We're having one lockup and from Fragioko, then we're seeing a lockup from Yonti, and we're seeing them get closer, and we're seeing them get further apart. So it's a really interesting battle to keep our eyes on. They are very, very close right now. But just to give us an update on the beginning, on the leader of this race, Get Owned, as we see him do a big lockup going into turn 12, I think that was. So not that is definitely one of the biggest braking zones and the most difficult braking zones, and it's very, very easy to lock those front tires as you come into the swift right 90-degree right-hander. Wow, couldn't get the words out again. But we are seeing still Get Owned looking very, very comfortable out in the lead of the race. But if we look on board with Luca right now, he is definitely closing that gap. So when Luca came into P2, he was about 4.5 seconds behind, and that gap has now closed up to 2.9 seconds behind Get Owned. So the gap is definitely closing up, and Luca is on much fresher tyres. The difference is about 6 or 7 laps on those hard tyres, but the differences will begin to negate soon. So Luca wants to get the most out of those hard tyres while he still can, which is exactly what he's doing right now, and he is really making the most, really trying to close up that gap, and it's working for him so far. So he's being able to do what Tiemann at the beginning of the race was not able to do, allowing Get Owned to get away and extend his victory, shall we say, as we ride on board with Luca, who is about to finish his 27th lap of this race. And you can see that Get Owned is in the distance. He is within touching within breathing reach, shall we say, and the gap has gone down to 2.7. So if Luca can get within DRS range, I wouldn't put him out of contention for the win, but we only have about 7 laps left of this race, so Luca is going to have to pick up the pace if he wants to start an attack on Get Owned. And in reality, all that bright yellow Renault needs to do right now is keep it clean, because there is nothing that could be worse for Get Owned right now than a penalty, and that would definitely drop him to at least P2, depending on how severe the penalty is right now. So Get Owned just needs to keep it clean, not take any risks, because he is currently in a very comfortable position. I'm not sure he'll feel so comfortable right now in that car, but he is he's right out front in a very comfortable position to us, and looking very, very strong for the lead of this race. So it's all looking very, very positive for Get Owned right now. Do you know who it's not looking positive for? Yonti, who is still struggling to get past the Ferrari of Fragiocco. So he's clearly struggling a lot, and I think both of their tyres must not be working to their optimum advantage, as neither of them seem to be able to shake the other. Yonti doesn't seem to be able to make this overtake stick. Fragiocco doesn't seem to be able to shake Yonti. But they are both closing in on Tierman as well, so I would not be surprised to see Tierman getting a little bit swallowed up by both of those Ferrari-powered cars. Excuse me. Hude is actually looking quite racy as well, just 2 seconds behind Yonti, so that gap is also closing up. Will he be able to close it before the end of the race? We have only about 6 laps to go of this 35-lap race. So it will be very, very interesting to see how much further Yonti can go. I mean, with that 3-second penalty now, Yonti will be demoted to P6, and Hude will be promoted to P5. So it's interesting to see whether Yonti is going to take a risky move to try and get past Fragiocco and extend in these last few laps towards the end of the race. Who knows? Tierman still seems to be very off the pace, and as we see a lock-up from Fragiocco behind. And I think that this is very characteristic of why we cannot see these midfield drivers try to overtake. I think they're struggling to follow behind each other, and there's definitely been a lot of lock-ups as a result of the pressure and some of the very difficult braking zones that there are on this track, should I say. So yeah, I think the drivers are definitely struggling with tyre management. Tyre management is extremely important around this circuit, as they are put under huge amounts of stress and pressure. So it's very, very important to ensure that those tyres are healthy towards the end of the race. But we have seen several lockups, as I keep reiterating. So it's very, very interesting to see if anyone's tyres will completely drop off. Hopefully that's a no, but Get Owned, Luca ahead, doing a brilliant job. Luca on those fresher hard tyres is making them work for him, and that strategy, the medium hards, is not what we thought we would be seeing today, but it has clearly worked. Absolutely a treat for Luca, who has really seized that opportunity and has got that gap down between him and Get Owned to 1.7 seconds. So he is really on the tail of Get Owned right now. It's going to be very interesting to see this fight in the final lap or final 2 laps of this race, because it could definitely all kick off towards the end. But let's have a look down at the midfield. Let's see what's going on. We are seeing Copy right on the back of Beaker, of the Haas of Beaker. So will Copy be able to use that DRS now? Oh, he's looking very, very close, but I'm not sure he'll be able to make that move stick. And he goes to the outside, but he's not. He's going to be... Oh, and he's going to go around the outside of turn 1 and then get the inside line for turn 2. But will he be able to make it stick? Oh, they are going side by side. And Copy manages to make that stick. Oh, as they go into the left-hander as well of turn 2. And the left-hander of turn 2 and the right-hander of turn 3. Yes, and Copy, that was a fantastic move from him. Very ballsy all the way around the outside of turn 1. And... turn 2, so that was a very well executed move by Copy, one of the drivers who does not have a penalty right now. So that is that's going to be very, very positive, and he's going to be up into the points, up into P7 now. So very, very positive for Copy. Disappointing again for Beaker, who was running very, very close to Yonti, as I pointed out before, but is now completely dropping back. So Yonti is in P5, but Beaker managing to drop down to P8 now, and he also has that penalty, unfortunately. So it's not looking like the best race for Beaker, and it is going to be a little bit disappointing in comparison to his teammate today. But as long as he is here right now, we are taking a look at Rainbow in P9, who is right behind him, and Rainbow is within DRS range. So over the next couple of laps, we've definitely got to see whether that gap is going to shrink down, and whether that will be a battle to watch towards the end of the race. And as we come back to the leading driver, we can see that Luca has done a brilliant job of getting that gap down to get owned. It is only 1.3 seconds now, so Luca is incredibly close to get owned, and it is going to be so close towards the end of this race. He's nearly within DRS range, and by the time we come around to lap 33, Luca will likely be in DRS range of get owned. So will his 6 lap younger hard tires be able to properly challenge get owned in the penultimate and the ultimate lap of the race? We will have to see, as we see Lando's Milkman is diving into the pits right now. He's going for soft tires, so Lando's Milkman could potentially then be going for the fastest lap of the race. It has been difficult today for the both of the AlphaTauris, as we saw Top Jack retire as well. Has been difficult for Lando's Milkman as well, who has been running around kind of at the back of the grid for the majority of the race, which has been disappointing. But we do see him with a little bit of pace now that those softs are on, so wonder if he'll be able to take fastest lap and bring at least 1 point home for the AlphaTauri team. Excuse me again. And jumping back up, we can see that Rainbow has managed to jump Beaker now, so that must have occurred while we were down with Lando's Milkman. So Rainbow has been patient and managed to get that move stick on Beaker, who is just dropping down now and falling victim to the guys with a little bit more pace behind him. So Rainbow had the same lap-old tyres as Beaker did, but was clearly able to use them more to his advantage, as we potentially might be seeing Beaker fall victim to the black Mercedes of Hazard, who is just 0.3 of a second behind Beaker right now. He is on those medium tyres as well, so he is going to have a lot more pace, and I would not be surprised to see Beaker falling victim to Hazard as well, and dropping down another place into P10. Yes, P10. So that would be very, very disappointing, but a fitting end to this disappointing race that that Beaker has been having. So let's move up. We have not managed to see an overtake happen between Fragioco, Yonti, or Hude right now, who are all fighting for P4, P5, and P6. That is a very interesting battle that we've had our eye on throughout this race as to whether these drivers, as we see them all locking up going into turn 5. So very, very interesting. They're just all following very closely to each other, but all within DRS range of the car in front, so none of them seem to be making an overtake stick. Very, very difficult for both of the drivers, all three of the drivers right now, who are involved in that situation. And Tiemann as well has been doing a brilliant job of defending, even though he was not really attacking Get Owned ahead so much. And speaking of Get Owned, Luca is in DRS range of Get Owned now, as we see him having a lock up into turn 1. Again, harsh braking zone, so very, very difficult and trying on those tyres. But he is 0.6 seconds behind Get Owned right now, as we are on lap 35 of lap 35. So can Luca get anything done? Can he pressure Get Owned into a mistake? Because if not, Get Owned is going to storm to this victory. He will have led the majority of this race and had a dominating lead. But Luca has done an absolutely incredible job to make that stick, as we see that Yonti falls victim to Hude, who manages to make an overtake stick as we are coming through the twisty turns of turn 8, 9, and 10 in sector in Sector 2. Luca is still much further behind Get Owned, but he is closing in. 0.4 seconds is the gap. Can he actually do anything on the final run down to the line in the DRS section? I don't think Luca is going to be able to do it. I think Get Owned will be able to hold on a little bit further as he comes round turn 14 and takes the victory. So Get Owned takes the victory. Luca comes home in second, and Tierman is going to come home in third, provided that nothing extreme happens on these final couple of corners for him. And yes, as he crosses the line, Tierman comes in P3. Fragioco manages to hold on to P4. Hude P5. Copy P6. Yonti falls victim to Copy as a result of his penalty and jumps down to P7. Then Rainbow P8, Hazard P9, and Mert in P10. Wow, what a final few laps. Luca managing to close in and almost jump Get Owned on the final lap. What an incredible drive from him. I'm going to have to say that Luca is my driver of the day. With an exceptional and different strategy to everyone else, he definitely managed to have the pace to contend with Get Owned. But let's not discount the winner, who did a fantastic job to have such a commanding victory throughout the entirety of the race. Throughout all 35 laps, Get Owned looked absolutely in control, and it was his race to lose. Hude also with driver of the day from the game, and I definitely say that is a worthy inclusion. Hude did a fantastic job coming back through the pack on that hard to medium strategy. That was well deserved, as we're seeing the drivers on the podium now. So an absolutely fantastic job. We're seeing them spraying the champagne. We have Get Owned, we have Luca, and we have Tierman on the podium. Well deserved by all three drivers, spraying that champagne in Hungary. So absolutely fantastic race and very well driven. So our final classification is Get Owned, who has been in P1 with Luca P2, Tierman P3, Fragioco P4, Hude P5, Copy P6, Yonti P7, Rainbow P8, Hazard P9, and Mert rounding out the points in P10. Lando's Milkman did manage to pick up the fastest lap and ended up finishing in P13. P11 was Beaker, who ended up out of the points. P12, Dennis, Lando's Milkman, as I said, P13, Libero in P14, and then Danny Coe, Milan, and Top Jack are non-finishers for this race. So very disappointing for those. But all I have to say now is apologies that you've had to listen to me, and Kai has disappeared. But thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this race. Many thanks, and we will see you next time as we go to Spa next week. So thank you.